it's very important to understand the difference between what we are expecting and what we are aspiring toward. Because an expectation tends to be something that when we don't achieve it, we're miserable. We expect of ourselves, we expect of others. But not only do we expect, we have a sort of a sense of entitlement to that expectation being fulfilled. So if I expect of you that you are going to treat me a certain way, you're going to be really nice, really loving, really patient, really caring, really generous, and then you're not, I end up getting very frustrated, very angry, not only at your lack of tenderness or caring or gentleness, but that's compounded by this crushing of my expectation. Because not only did I expect it of you, but I also had this sense of an entitlement to that expectation being fulfilled. So I expect you should act like this, and I feel entitled to you fulfilling that expectation. So when you don't, I am miserable. And the same thing is true when we expect of ourselves. When we expect that we should be able to achieve something, do something, and along with that expectation is this sense that it must happen. And then when it doesn't happen, we are miserable. And by the way, that misery is what saps our energy much more than the time that we spend actually working. People think it's the work that makes you tired, or it's the work that you need a break from. It depends what you do, but what I've seen on a personal level, and here we are 7 days a week, 365 days a year on. And what I've seen is fatigue, tiredness, exasperation. It's not from the work itself, regardless of how many hours it is. It's from the attachment to the expectation of what is going to come from the work. That's what makes you really tired. And so if you have superhuman aspirations, wonderful. You are superhuman. This is what all of our scriptures keep reminding us. You are divine. The divine lives within us, that power of the divine. We have so much potential, so much more potential than any of us is fulfilling. And in what direction? It's not about necessarily a potential for, if I decided, this is my favorite example, if I decided that I wanted to be the star of the Los Angeles Lakers basketball team. Now, you don't have to be superhuman. There's plenty of humans who are stars of basketball teams. And if I decided that that was my aspiration, I could work and train. But I'm going to be 50 in a week. I'm about 5'3", in pretty good shape, but not the shape that basketball stars are. There's pretty much no chance in a million years that the LA Lakers or any other basketball team for that matter are gonna recruit me, hire me, and make me the star of their team. Now, if I'm attached to that, when it doesn't happen, I'm going to be miserable. But here's the key. That superhuman element within myself is not about suddenly making myself 25 years old and 6'5". The superhumanness in myself is the ability to know that regardless of the shape and the size of this body, regardless of its particular skills, its particular abilities, who I am is divine. That's the superhumanness of us. And in that awareness, there is so much we can achieve. When we really put our minds to it, when we really get our egos out of the way, get our expectations out of the way, because that's what saps our energy. Get all of the nonsense in our mind out of the way. Negativities, comparisons, judgment. Most of our minds are so full of negativity toward others, toward the world around us, toward our own selves. We're constantly judging, condemning, comparing, and we don't even realize how much energy and time that actually takes from us that we could be using to achieve these wonderful aspirations that we have, these wonderful goals that we have. So when we free ourselves of that energy sapping, time sapping habit of complaining and comparing and negativity and judging and being stuck in yesterday and tomorrow, we've actually got so much more energy, so much more time, so much more focus. These days, all over the world, life coaches are teaching people how to get in the flow. That's the big thing these days, how to get in the flow. So whatever you are, how to find your flow. And that flow state is that state in which time stops, right? You forget to eat. You forget it's time to go to bed. You forget everything because you're in a state of flow. And it's found in people of every walk of life. Normally, we tend to think of it just for like athletes or musicians. But it's not. These days, most of the programs are actually for people in business, people running companies, entrepreneurs. But what's key about the flow state is, in order to get into that state, I'm not comparing, I'm not judging, I'm not complaining, I'm not in yesterday, I'm not in tomorrow, I'm only in this particular work that I'm doing. And it doesn't matter what it is. I could be doing data entry. I could be on my 1,785th piece of data that I'm entering that day. I could be composing a piece of music. I could be making dinner. I could be working on a prototype for some new invention. I could be stuffing envelopes. I could be teaching school. I could be building websites. I could be doing anything. As long as I'm fully engaged in it, I can hit that state of flow. And that's the state in which not only do we actually achieve those superhuman potentials, but actually the work becomes joy. And by the way, to actually be able to live in joy, to live in peace, to live blossoming every day, that is way more of a superhuman type of goal than anything else that we could possibly achieve today but lose tomorrow. And of course, that's the nature of things in this world. Success today, failure tomorrow, praise today, criticism tomorrow. That's the nature of how the world works. So yes, be a superhuman. You are a superhuman. We have beautiful mantras and teachings and so much to remind us that. And remember that in order for that to be sustainable, it's not about the hours. It's not about anything, the energy output. It's much more about the mind. The mind is going to make you tired. The mind is going to drain you. And tragically, the mind is going to prevent you from being able to achieve those superhuman goals, whatever it may be. So the balance between superhuman and sustainable is actually taking care of our own minds. Because when we find that state of flow, it's superhuman and it's sustainable. So that becomes the key. And lastly, along with that, remembering self-love, self-compassion is so important. And this is where our love and our compassion for ourselves must be hooked not into what we achieve, but into the state of our being while we are attempting to achieve it. So it's not about how far did I get. It's not about how much data did I enter, or how perfect was the meal, or how brilliant was the composition of music, or how many envelopes did I stuff. It's about how was my mind, how was my heart while I was doing it. And what you'll find really interestingly is when the heart and the mind are in alignment, the actual work not only becomes much, much more successful, but you don't even know how it happened. You kind of open your eyes and, oh my God, it's done. Open your eyes in this magic. Open your eyes in this miracle. Because it came through you rather than from you. When things are trying to come from us and we're squeezing them and pulling them, then it's all perspiration. But when it's coming through us, then it's much more inspiration than perspiration. And a little bit of perspiration is good. They say sweat detoxes us. So a little bit of sweat is very good for everyone. But the vast majority should be the inspiration with just the right amount of perspiration.